Hey everybody, it's me, Andrew Markowitz again. I am back. Um, I'm recording another video today. I recorded about 3 yesterday, got 3 done, which I'm happy about. With that aside, I've been really interested in this Hasan interview. I just haven't been able to react to it because life's been crazy. So let's go take a look into it. And the channel that I'm using for this one, because I can't ever seem to find the old interview unless he has it in his links. He does not. Okay. Um, that's why I use a lot of different channels, is because I don't have time to like go hunt down links for hours and hours. I just don't. So this is why I do the way I do it. With that aside, let's get into this little interview of Hasan on the Trigonometry podcast, because I am quite curious.
Anyone is coming into the United States of America or the UK, as a matter of fact, because they want to bring about a Salafist-style Islamic caliphate in London. I know you won't agree with me on this.
It's not about whether I agree, it's about whether the facts agree.
And the facts state that, at the very least, the Muslim Brotherhood has had its leaders say several times messages such as ballot or bullet. Like, they expect to be able to conquer the world and conquer the West through those two means. On top of that, the Quran does ascribe that they are supposed to slowly conquer the world through one way or another.
I don't think that's the case.
Hold on.
I think ultimately.
Well, let me just give you some facts then. We have a terrorist attack on a monthly basis by an Islamist, effectively. We just had 2 in the space of the last month as we're recording this. 33%, I think, of British Muslims want Sharia law in Britain.
More than half of British Muslims want to make it illegal to show a picture of the Prophet Muhammad, compared to 16% of the wider public. That's not shocking at all. If you look at the regions they have been heavily importing from, these are not the supposedly Muslim moderate countries that a lot of people proclaim they are. I hate to tell it to you, but Somalia is not very pro-Christian or Christian-friendly or Jewish-friendly. Saudi Arabia isn't, and there's several other countries that they're importing from the tips of North Africa that are the same situation. They heavily oppose each region.
According to polls. More than half want to ban...
I haven't seen these polls.
Well, we can put them in for people to see. More than half want to ban homosexuality, right? So when you say people aren't coming in to introduce an Islamist stuff, well, some of them want to.
Justin Hasan Piker versus Constantine Trigonometry on Islamic immigration. No intro today. We're going straight in.
You're Venezuelan originally. Your family came from Venezuela. Your family came from the USSR. You guys are...
I like the little thing he's done here with the little him in the way far corner. He's really trying to give the video most of the presence. I appreciate that. I think I'd make mine just a little bit bigger, because I think my videos will explode and do a lot better once I can give you guys facial reactions. Coming soon to a store near you someday, somehow. I promise. But yeah, I like that. That's smart. I think I will do that in the future. Let's rewind this just a bit.
Originally, your family came from Venezuela. Your family came from the USSR. You guys are the most British people I've ever encountered.
I have a very British face, yes. You are correct.
Yeah, exactly. You're British to the bone.
Yeah.
And yet, your families also came from countries that were somewhat far away from England, right?
Yeah.
And...
Well, I think it's not just that they came far away from England. I think that the culture and where they were at also has a huge impact on that. And ignoring that a culture doesn't shape a person and shape a few is ignorance, is stupidity.
I'm Turkish.
And that's
I grew up in Turkey. My
weird.
whole family lives in Turkey still, with some exceptions. And I would say I'm pretty assimilated to American culture. I grew up being fascinated by American culture. I grew up consuming American pop culture, as do many people all around the world. And what I always find interesting is when people focus on the newcomers, to say that this is actually destroying the social fabric.
That's not true. a lot of time the reason why there's heavily focus on the newcomers, it's not because we think they'll destroy us. It's because anyone in any culture should always be cautious of newcomers. It's just the intelligent thing to do. It doesn't matter where you are, what you came from, anything like that. Always be cautious of someone new in your life. Always. That's just intelligence on display.
The social cohesion, not realizing that there are a ton of polls conducted on this stuff. I can just speak for America, especially, where by the second generation, assimilation is almost complete, and by the third one, it's like virtually impossible to distinguish.
Typically, that's true. Throughout history, that's been true. That is not what has been currently happening in the modern day of immigration, due to an entire mindset change on how we treat and interact with immigrants throughout the entire Western world. It's caused a huge problem in the social cohesion. I might make a video on this.
In terms of performance, educational output, and job performance in general. It's just like everyone becomes American.
That's not true in the UK, though, unfortunately. So if you look at, for example, Islamist radicalization, second and third generation Muslims are much more radical than first generation.
Yeah.
And that poll also doesn't just apply to the UK, by the way. That poll applies to the world. By the way. That poll wasn't just applicable to the UK. That was a poll done in the UK, the US, Canada, and like several other countries. So it actually applies to the US, which actually just proves us on point.
We're not. That's the issue that a lot of people in Britain are concerned about. Is not everyone's assimilating the way that the three of us are.
So
yeah,
here's the interesting point about that.
And I also question: has Hasan really assimilated into U.S. culture? He's called for the killing of U.S. senators. He's demanded that we go to communism, which capitalism naturally opposes. He's pro-Hamas, a terrorist group labeled by the U.S. All these things. So has he actually really, like, cohesified into the U.S., or is he just abusing the system? Because I don't think someone that supports a bunch of groups that seek your destruction is properly integrated into your society. Just a theory, just a thought.
Well, two things I want to address. First, like I said, people assimilate. And they become a part of the normal forces of society. They become a part of the culture, or they bring some aspect of their culture into British culture. You know, they change the cuisine, and people seemingly enjoy it, even if they also simultaneously go attend an EDL rally and then, you know, get a little quick curry afterwards, or on the side. But beyond that, the reason why people are angry is always going to be because the trains are not running on time, because the NHS is improperly.
It's not the problem of the NHS. I've already had this discussion with a British friend of mine.
That's what I believe. I think it's always.
It's not underfunded. It's been well funded for years and years and years.
They're not getting the same services that they once used to, and also things are becoming more and more costly. So in that anger, it's much easier for them to.
My friend described it as there was this huge change. I think it's the Iron Lady. I can't remember her name. Margaret Thatcher? I don't remember. Who did like this whole change to the NHS, and he says that's the reason why like the NHS has been failing and things like that. And he keeps saying that the US should get the same system, and my point is that your country struggles to maintain this system and had this system going well for XYZ amount of time, and now it's starting to fail. I think they instituted the NHS like back in the 30s or the 40s, maybe 50s, and what is it now, like 75 years, probably a little earlier or later than that. It's now falling apart. It's now struggling to keep up and deal with things, and that's also a factor of you have a massive increase in immigration into this country, which was not expected, and it happened in a 10-year to 20-year decade that was already slowly trickling in over a 30-year period, but then massively swelled. And then on top of that, like, you're just straining the fabric. As you induct more into a system and make more people rely on things in a system, the more stress to that system. That's just a natural causality of the world. So that's why you should always be careful of any government program of subsidies or anything like that that isn't being provided naturally, intrinsically by the individual's free will, because it's very likely to lead. It will, ironically, government forced programs, due to the basic idea that everything a government does is at some way, shape, or form at the end of a gun. Okay, that is a fact. Everything a government does is at the barrel of a gun. The reason why, as well, I'm also such a heavy Christian is because Christianity has a solution to that doesn't involve governance. It's the faith in Jesus Christ that tells me, hey, I should be generous, compassionate, and good to other people around me. And that then lets me freely and willingly help and assist others how I can and where I can. Wherein, for example, I'm poor as shit. But I promise you, I find time in my life to go down and help my church, to go down and help others, to just have conversations with people and talk to them and make sure they're well and things like that. And that's how I spend my generosity and my time. Because I may be poor and not be able to give financially, but I can give through other means. I've always thought of that 10% isn't just a financial 10%, it's a 10% in what capacity you can give, and it's not even really a 10%. It's as much as you can really give. Trying to remember what his name is. There's a really good video. I'm gonna find it later. From a Christian YouTube channel who does a whole thing on generosity. It's a really great video. I'll post it probably in a link when I get this video up.
Be guided by a right wing, guided by the right wing.
Anyways, tangent aside. The whole point of this is that the train's not running on time, the NHS and all that stuff aren't actual factors. They're surface level problems. Again, as I keep saying a lot of the time, the problem runs in the depths of the ocean, not on the surface of the pond. And that's where a lot of our problems run into.
Forces to turn around and say, you're angry and you're right to be angry. And the reason why you're angry, or the reason why all of these things are happening is because we are importing all of these random strangers into the country who don't speak your language, who you are scared by, and that, I think,
the problem is not speaking my language immediately. The problem is that they refuse to. That is a problem, because that is a refusal to communicate. And why would you ever bring anybody into your community who refuses to communicate with you? You know, interestingly enough, the word community has that word "com" in it, which is to talk, to work together. I believe it's communicate, community. Com would be, I want to say that's Greek. No, it's Latin. Sorry. It'd be Latin. And it does mean to speak or to or together. Yeah, because communicate. Yes, it is Latin. So calm. That right there, like, is a problem, because you're not even following the first part of the word, which is to speak together, to work together, as the word would literally, if you were to break down the individual parts of the word, would come to mean. And then as you get to the other word, communicate, like, that's a problem. If you're not willing to communicate with me and not willing to learn my language, and you're coming into my community and then forcing me to learn yours, that's a problem. Okay? I shouldn't expect that. I should expect an exchange. I learn some of your language, you learn some of mine, and we make a language. And this is how a language has evolved throughout years and years and years, as cultures would constantly intermingle and constantly interact, and then over time a new language, like the common language, would change in form because it was just easier to speak that It was easier to speak the common of the time than it was to try and figure out all this hogwash.
Causes division. And
it does cause division. If you refuse to communicate with people, it will cause division. A lack of communication will cause problems because you won't know the problems going on.
Causes friction that makes it harder for people to integrate. And that is part of the reason why I think, especially in a place like the UK, you see a little bit more of this resilience towards full-blown integration into society.
I also think as well, Hasan, if we're being honest, it's also because we have had such huge amounts of immigration come into the country that people understandably go, this pace of change is too much. And you have to think, let's go back to 2016, which was the Brexit referendum. Now, Brexit was about many things, but really it was about people wanting immigration to be lowered. And that was nigh on 10 years ago. Immigration hasn't been lowered. In fact, it's been ratcheted up. So people people voted to lower immigration, and for instance, I voted Remain. People voted Brexit. I'm like, well, that's democracy. We get on. We're going to make the best of it.
Yep.
I do believe
as
that
you
when
should
you ignore people's wishes at the ballot box and people explicitly vote for something and you ignore them for the best part of a decade, that does generate a lot of anger, and understandably so.
Yeah, I think in that same time frame,
Agreed.
If there was enough appetite by the government to address the financial harm that people were experiencing, the economic struggles that people were experiencing.
The government shouldn't be handling financial harm. The government should be working to make an economy that can solve the financial harm by itself. The government should be figuring out what things they need to do as a government on a large-scale level, a plan that they can institute that helps fix and structure the economy in a direction such as, making some sort of material cheaper or increasing prices on imports or other things like that to manipulate the factors that affect people's lives that then allow them to prosper better. The government shouldn't be forcing help at the end of a gun, okay? That's always going to end badly, okay? The government should never be the one putting the gun and saying, I'm here to help you. Like, Ronald Reagan quote right there, okay? I'm from the government, I'm here to help. There's a reason why people laughed and were terrified of that. We should be. Don't rely on the government to solve social problems. Rely on people at an individual level coming and collaborating together to find a solution. It works better, I promise you. History has shown this. Go read.
There would still be a lot of people who say, I don't want a brown person, I don't want a black person around in my neighborhood, but ultimately those numbers would be far smaller. And that's what
I really don't think it has anything to do with skin color, Hasan. I really don't think it has anything to do with skin color. Gonna be real with you. I really don't ever think this had anything ever to do with skin color.
always go back to. I'm a leftist. I believe in economic improvements, and I believe that a lot of the reactionary forces actually take advantage of that instability, the economic volatility that exists, in an effort to shift the attention away to people who have the same exact interests.
I think that's not just a problem on the left. I think that's a problem on the right. And again, yeah, it is the problem of people looking at the surface of the pond and not at the ocean. So yeah, I would agree there. But I think you're still looking at the surface of the pond, Hasan. And you're trying to solve it at the surface of... You're looking at the depths of the ocean, but trying to come up with a solution at the surface of the pond that should solve the problem at the depths. It's not going to work.
As you and I do. Because ultimately, I don't believe that anyone is coming into the United States of America or the UK, as a matter of fact, because they want to bring about a Salafist-style Islamic caliphate in London. I know you won't agree with me on
It's
this.
not about whether I agree, it's about whether the facts agree with you.
I don't think that's the case.
Hold on.
I think
Well,
ultimately.
let me just give you some facts then. If that, we have a terrorist attack on a monthly basis by an Islamist, effectively. We just had 2 in the space of the last month as we're recording this. 33%, I think, of British Muslims want Sharia law in Britain, like, according to polls.
You laugh at that, Hasan, but that's terrifying. Sharia law is scary, okay? Sharia law is scary.
More than half want to ban. Hold on. Well, we can put them in for people to see. More than half want to ban homosexuality, right? So when you say people aren't coming in to introduce an Islamist stuff, well, some of them want to if they're in a position to do so. We have 5 MPs who are effectively elected on a sectarian ticket, like as in we are Muslims, vote for us because you're a Muslim.
Who would you say those MPs are?
The 5 independent MPs, they're called the Gaza MPs or whatever way you want to call them.
Are you talking about like Zara Sultana?
I don't know if she's one of them. I think one of them is called Adnan Hussein. There's 5
Oh, cool. Awesome. I'll post them up.
of them. We can look them up. We can put them in for people to see. Right, so,
Jeremy Corbyn, huh?
I think it should be said that the overwhelming majority of British Muslims don't want Sharia law. But if 33% of them do, you can see why a lot of people who don't want Sharia law might be concerned about that, right?
Sure. I don't know what I haven't seen these polls, and I also don't know what British Muslims or the 33% that are saying they want Sharia law, like what they're talking about. The counterexample always.
You do know what they're talking about, Hasan. Hasan weirds me out so much. And he's very similar to Zoran, where Zoran also weirds me out so much. Where he's a Muslim, I think. I don't know. Like, he's obviously not a strict Muslim, and that's the thing that's trippy with him. So he's a little different than, like, honestly, the average Muslim. I would say Hasan isn't in a multitude of factors. He's definitely not very strong in his faith, I'll say that much. Because he would have a completely different perspective if he was. I watched enough David Wood and inspiring philosophy debates with those people like Daniel Hakikachu and things like that to know that for a fact.
There's plenty of right-wing forces in the country that also want to ban homosexuality or trans people.
Ooh, none. I love that automatic, snappy reply. Beautiful. Beautiful slam dunk there.
Right?
No one wants to ban trans people in Britain.
No.
Okay. Well, that's not what.
Good W. Awesome. I love that shutdown. I love that hard shutdown. I'll be honest. I don't want to ban trans people or anything like that. I don't want to ban gay people or anything like that. Do I think both of those things are a sin? Yeah, I'll say it. Yes. Primarily because that's what is stated in the Bible. But we're taught how to handle sin, and we're taught how to help people out of sin. We're not supposed to murder them for their sin. Especially if they're not a part of the faith. Like, you're not supposed to kill them for it. A fun fact. So anybody who's ever been killed for that reason has been killed wrongly. Has been murdered wrongly. So, like, yeah, I understand that. But I don't want to ban it. But it's definitely a thing of, like, I do think it's wrong of you and a sin of you, but what I've always believed fundamentally about the faith and everything else is that you have to freely consent to Jesus Christ coming into your life in order for him to change you and put you on the right path and to correct that issue. I can do nothing to correct that issue as a human being. I can't force you to any capacity or anything like that. All I can do is offer the faith and pray that you take it, and that when you take it, you have truly taken it into your heart, and once doing so, Christ will do with you as he needs to do with you in your life. That's always been my opinion on any of those topics and issues, whether you're in witchcraft, another religion, anything like that. I can present the argumentations and everything else necessary, both the non-biblical and the biblical argumentations, all day long to just show you where I stand on that issue. But I'm not going to force it on you. I'm just going to tell you why I believe what I believe. And it's up to you to make of that as you will. I'm not going to force it on you. I'm not going to hold you to it or anything like that. That's not for me to do. That I can't make happen. But what I can make happen is it known why I believe this in my faith, cite it where it is in my faith, and then show, hey, this is why I believe what I believe, this is how I go about it, etc., etc. This is what my faith is. And if people are opposed to that, people are opposed to that. That's fine. I'm not going to be upset with them for being angry with me over such things. That would be wrong of me, in all honesty. Like I said, the only thing I can do at the end of the day is just pray that they let Christ into their heart and that Christ does the work. Because I can't. That's not work I can do. That's not any of the kind of works that I make capable of. I have to present what I can about Christ and then hope that that person is willing to then take the opportunity to let Christ in. And upon doing that, that's where the change happens.
I have seen so far, but maybe I'm wrong on this.
What do you mean?
But I feel like there's a lot of this is a point of contention for you guys as well. But it's like when you want to ban trans people altogether, when you want to remove access to medication for trans people.
Yeah, we want to do that for children. We don't care if they're adults and they want to do this stuff. Because children don't have a full capacity to understand what the heck they're doing, so therefore it's wrong of them. So if that's the argumentation you're trying to make, you're wrong
transition, and conform their own gender identity, you don't start off by saying we want to altogether ban trans people. You start off by trying to find the most successful approach that the broadest majority of the masses would be in tune with, would be in agreement with, and then you slowly but surely expand on it.
Wouldn't that be like me saying, well, you say you want socialism, but actually you're a communist? Because you just want to edge your way towards communism step by step.
I mean,
that seems like an unfair way of looking at it.
No, my retort to that would be that...
Oh, okay, let's see here.
I'm a communist. I don't have an issue with an end goal of communism. I don't think it's like I just think that it's probably not likely to happen, a stateless, moneyless, borderless society. But moving towards that end goal, I don't have any real...
You'd like communism in America?
I think that communism would be most likely an international thing. It'd be like the Star Trek universe. And it feels...
Yeah, it never happened in a million years because it ignores human ambition. That's like the biggest problem with communism. And I've gotten in debates with people time and time again when it comes to this, and I'm like... And it's so dumb when I've gotten into this argumentation. Because they'll tell me, no, it doesn't not ignore human ambition. I'm like, yes, it does. Like, literally in his works, Marx literally says that there would need to be a massive, dramatic, fundamental change in the thought process of man. And every other person after him, socialist or communist, otherwise, who wrote a book on it, also says the same thing. It's fundamentally opposed to human nature. And even the authors of it know it. Like, go read your work before you proclaim this bullshit. Because it annoys the hell out of me when people say that, and then I go cite them the words from the guy's mouth, and then they go, oh. And I'm like, so do you now understand why I say it ignores human ambition? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so am I wrong? And they're like, no. And I'm like, I see. Cool. Have a nice day. Go actually read what you're talking about, not promote it and understand nothing. Like... You'll see me get angry about that with anybody, including Christians. Christians who promote things and don't actually understand what they're reading. Don't understand it. I despise people who lack understanding because they are saying things without the knowing of things. And that is foolhardy. And I don't like fools.
Especially at this point, it feels far too utopian to achieve. So... while I think...
far too utopian to achieve. It is utopian to achieve, so it's never possible.
That the concept in and of itself is not one that I disagree with. And I don't think you would either. Don't you think it would be nicer?
I grew up in a communist country. I very strongly disagree with the concept of communism.
The USSR was, as you know as well...
and this is the problem with his works, too, is like Marx's works and everything else, is because of the weird... stupid way he defines communism and socialism in the books. And the paragraphs where he actually goes about it, it's just gobbledygook say-so gibberish is the only way I can describe it. I got so frustrated reading that part of the book. I had to read it like 30 times. And it's not that I didn't understand what was being said. It's like you're giving this thing that you're trying to define no definition. Why? And you even recognize that you're not doing it. And it drove me up a wall. Because I was like, this is madness. Ugh. Gosh, they're such frustrating pieces to read. Such frustrating pieces to read.
Trying to implement communism. They never actually were able to successfully implement communism.
Gee, I wonder why. It's almost like when you oppose human nature, people just don't want to do it.
How do you mean?
Well, it wasn't a borderless, moneyless, classless society, right?
That was
It
never
would be
the
like
goal of communism. It was never to be a borderless, moneyless society.
no, that is what communism is.
No.
That's not how the communists in Russia defined it.
Well,
There was a big debate within communism quite early on, which was about, are we pursuing a global
yes.
state of communism?
Frost versus Stalin. I'm
right,
very familiar.
right, but for our audience, this might be worth explaining.
Yeah.
Some of them wanted to, they basically recognized the only way you might ever get to a communist society is if everyone in the world gets it. Otherwise, there will always be a capitalist system to which people would be keen to defect. Or, this is the Stalin option that they ended up going for, is you pursue communism within the realm of one country. And in order to do that, they took the wealth away from people who had it. They tried to distribute it to everybody else. They tried to create a state of equality, uplift the poor, as you were talking about. And actually, if you take those measures alone, they were very successful at it.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is they ended up putting millions of people in camps in order to do that, creating a tyrannical regime with a secret police that...
Yeah, because they put millions of people in camps because they had to get rid of people they deemed not even worth the poor. Communism is a nightmare system. It just is.
Murdered people. And that is the reason communism, in my opinion, doesn't work, is because in order to achieve that goal of equality, and basically you're making everybody equally poor as the end result, you actually have to use a lot of force, right? So that was communism, what we had.
Yeah, everybody's equally poor.
That
is so true.
Never successfully.
Because once you get into a communist system, it is insanely hard to generate wealth. It is insanely hard to grow or invest in anything. Just because of the structure of communism and the concept of it. Again, it's opposed to human nature.
Achieved in the USSR in terms of establishing what I'm talking about, though. And that's why I'm saying it's important to understand and recognize the failures of this implementation in the aftermath of a socialist revolution and choose not to repeat those mistakes.
So how would you do it differently?
Well, that's the reason why I pointed to China. China is run by the Communist Party of China. It bills itself as communist. China is not a communist.
When did China start? When did the communist China start? 40s ran through to today. Give it 30 more years.
Communist country. Would you say China is a communist country?
It's a mixed country. It has some elements of communism, but it's also got a lot of capitalism going on.
Yeah,
right?
so it's a mixed market economy is what you're saying, right? But so is the United States of America if you look at it from that perspective, because America also has some semblance of social safety nets. The UK also has some social safety nets, some state-run enterprises, especially pre-Margaret Thatcher, I would say.
And those should be incredibly limiting.
Private enterprises as well. I wouldn't say that China is a communist, and neither would you, but it's run by a communist party, and so far they have seen a pretty successful, pretty robust level of growth and development overall.
The challenge is, Hasan, when you centralize power and you give practically all the power to the government, what happens with that is you're far more likely to have corruption, you're far more likely to have abuse of power, and inevitably,
I wonder why.
Is that the government can't do everything. There are things that are far better done by private practice than done by state control. So if you
yes,
would you also agree that there are things that are far better done in the hands of the government, or at least with like heavy market?
Things that I think my government should do that I would agree with that they should do. Military enforcement of borders. Protecting your borders. And protecting your trade lines that feed and provide for your country. And then also outside tariff economic control and tax rate. Those are pretty well handled by a government. The vast majority of other things, far better handled by individuals.
Regulation and intervention.
I completely agree.
Because like healthcare, I think is a great example of this, where like it's an inelastic demand good and service, right? If you don't have healthcare, you die. So you will pay whatever.
That's not true. When you say that, and how you're defining it, that's not true. How you want to implement healthcare, that's not true. To the capacity that you want to implement healthcare, that's not true. Because on top of that, like basic healthcare is food and water in all reality. Basic food and of healthcare is food and water. Should the government be providing everybody every day with the bare minimum food and water? Should that be forced on all of society to be provided to all of society, that we shouldn't even have to work for our food and water? I don't think that would go well, personally. I think that would end poorly. I think that it would end in a lot of pain. That's how I think that would go. And on top of that, I've ran off the government healthcare system in the U.S. The VA can suck ass. Is all I'll say about that.
Price you have to pay for healthcare. And therefore, I think the American system that is the most maximalist, most capitalist, most like free enterprise.
See, you say that, and it used to be before Obamacare, and on top of that, America is where all of the modern new technology of healthcare and all of that stuff is handled and done. It's not done anywhere else in the world. Modern healthcare inventions, like cancer treatments, all of that stuff, are developed and made in America. Nowhere else. Because nowhere else can afford to do it, because they're just having to provide what they have right now in their system to their people. They can't supplement money for development.
System has been an abject failure in terms of delivering good results. And what I mean by that is healthcare as a whole is supposed to improve people's living standards and also make sure.
Healthcare isn't about living standards. That's an entirely different thing. They're separate. The word health and care. I don't even know if I want to get into this. I don't feel like getting into this. We're just going to continue.
So that everyone is getting the best quality care possible, right?
Maybe they come up with a better rebuttal, because I'll just take too long.
In America, we don't have that. We do have nicer hospitals that resemble hotels, as opposed to like.
I'll be honest with you, it'd be difficult not to have a nicer hospital than the UK, mate.
Yeah, no, but but I understand that. I'm from Turkey. I've seen the Turkish public hospitals, but I would rather try to focus on the diminished quality of service and try to improve that in a socialized system than to altogether limit healthcare at the point of being able to pay for it. We also experience a similar dynamic. We just don't see it in the same way, because it's not the most direct form of authoritarianism, where a lot of people think, well, as long as I can eat a Big Mac, as long as I can watch TV, as long as I can consume porn and gamble on the unregulated crypto currency market, or gamble my modest income away, what remains after I give the rest to my landlord, then things are probably fine. And I think we dull our sensibilities in that regard. And I think it's a different form, it's a different mechanism of control that makes you.
I agree, and I disagree. He's added so many things into this so quickly and simultaneously that he's completely pulled the conversation away from where it started. Hasan is very, very, very good at that. And if I ever had to debate him, I'd have to make sure to just iron out the point and stay on track. Um, in any capacity like that. Because, yeah, I can already see it, and this would really get on my nerves, and I would get irritated, and I would fail the debate because of that. Is how he quickly adds so many other things into one thing, so that way he can pivot the conversation in a billion different directions.
Think that you are actually an active participant in this.
I mean, I think that's quite a stretch, Hasan, with all respect.
Yeah,
because
agreed.
The difference between, I mean, we talked about some societies that have attempted to pursue communism, China, the Soviet Union, Venezuela, etc., right? The difference between those countries is not that they can't eat a Big Mac. The difference is that if they criticize the government, in Russia today even, but of course in the Soviet Union previously, you're going to get killed, right? In America, that's not what happens, right? In America, you don't get...
You're not getting killed for criticizing the government. Don't pull this crap. Oh my god. As a matter of fact, as it stands right now, if you're for the current government, you're more likely to be killed. We already have very strong evidence of that, with several fatalities in the last couple months. I could give a list of names. You're more likely to be killed for being pro the current government than against it. You're not likely to even be charged if you're against it, and you decide to light half your frickin' city on fire.
Oh yeah, we don't know where we're gonna go yet.
I mean, Hasan, to be fair, you're a very successful...
I agree with you.
You in China or in the Soviet Union would be killed if you were critical of that regime.
I would definitely be jailed.
You'd definitely be jailed.
Yeah,
so that's the difference between these countries and America. It's not a Big Mac, it's freedom.
I found some of your comments really...
By the way, that leads me to like one of the
Agreed.
things we talked about here a lot before. It's so interesting to hear Hasan say it that way, where he's like, just like, of course I would be jailed if I were to say it there. And it's like, I've been...
So you know that...
Devil comes knocking on your door personally for lashing out, for saying something, for being completely inappropriate, and or if you say something that isn't allowed to be said where you are, God forbid, we talk about what happens if you want to talk about the freedom of speech in Iran, or if you want to be a woman that doesn't abide by the dress code mandated for women there. God forbid what happens over in America. You want to act like that's not the case because I'm an Israeli and I'm a Jew trying to defend it, and then you flip the script. But it's always this whole thing about like I'm innocent until it comes knocking on my door, and then suddenly I have to stop saying something. So he's willing to admit it if it were to happen to in another country, but you guys can see the view. I think that's Los Angeles in a multi-million-dollar house. I believe that's his.
Agreed. Yep.
It's comfortable for him to say it.
Interesting about the region. I'd love to talk to you about them. So you've said, and correct me if I'm wrong, push back on me if I'm wrong, that you think that he's innocent and unfairly maligned. How did you come to that position? If I'm correct.
What on God's green earth?
Okay.
But
what does it mean? It's a meme. We're like
the
we're
notion,
not boomers, but we're like elderly
the
millennials.
notion that someone is innocent until proven guilty, or that he wasn't there. It's like a common thing that people do on TikTok and elsewhere as well. But
you don't think he's?
That's a complete sidestep.
I don't know if he's the one that actually did it or not. We'll see once the court case finalizes.
But what? But is he? Sorry, I may not understand what meme means in this context. Like, I guess what I'm asking is, when you say he's unfairly maligned, do you believe that or not? That's what I'm asking.
What I mean by this, America's very draconian. They're very black and white. It's like you do a crime, you get punished, and a lot worse than you would get punished elsewhere, right? There are.
That's not true. That's not true at all. We just talked about several countries, Hasan, where so much as criticizing the government will get you executed, much less committing a crime. Good Lord! It's like this dude has, like, just complete pockets in his brain that he's just cut out and carved, and they cannot interact with each other. And he doesn't let everything intermesh and mingle and figure everything how it should intermingle together. He just pockets everything together in these neat little things, and that's how everything is. And, gives me a headache.
Millions of Americans out there that have individuals in their lives that they loved ones, immediate loved ones, distant relatives that they've seen suffer in their final moments as they, go through the process of trying to figure out the paperwork in a system that is designed to, let's be real, take as much money as possible from you in the form of premiums, and then create a profit incentive by refusing to pay for the healthcare.
Hasan, I get all that, and I empathize with that pain that those people feel.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is, you said he's innocent, then you said it's a meme, you say it's just a thing that people say. What I'm trying to understand is...
The reason why people say that is because I think...
Their anger doesn't make him innocent, right?
No,
if he shot a man who runs a healthcare company, healthcare insurance company,
yeah,
and they are angry with healthcare in America, that doesn't make him innocent, right?
It doesn't.
So isn't you and them saying that just flat out wrong?
Well,
yeah.
The reason for saying it is because you're innocent until proven guilty.
I just think...
I think you're a liar, Hasan. Honestly. I disagree entirely. I think he's a liar.
It's really weird that we're in a place now where we have people like Hasan Piker who are platformed to be like the news source center of information for people about shit like foreign relations to other countries and fucking China and communism.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It just doesn't add up.
No, it
I
doesn't.
understand that you can change your background, you can shift into a different gear of like profession and become a politician or become a commentator, become a journalist, but fucking Hasan Piker is he's a grifter.
Agreed.
And he's dangerous. And he is...
I don't know about the dangerous part, but he's very scary.
They also have the permission to speak with such transparency and lack of filter in how they think that it's literally led to dangerous environments for a lot of Jews, for a lot of people in the Israel-Palestine conversation, but for a lot of people to be more ignorant. Ignorant to the truth. I mean, it's exactly when Constantine brought up the statistics of what's going on right now with terrorist attacks. And
Agreed.
he has no idea. He says you don't... I haven't seen these statistics. No shit, bro.
Obviously you haven't.
Statistics. That's the whole point. I can't stand this, man. Anyways, thank you so much for all your support. Links below.
Well, that was definitely a video and a half. I'm glad that he didn't actually have much talking to do there, and I actually basically got to have most of the interview without much interaction. I very much appreciate him for that and his little response at the end. That being the case, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe. God bless.